that, my first guest has had a busy 6 months leading her party into her second general election as leader, trading blows with the Taoiseach and the Dáil over speaking rights, and last week calling once again for a United Ireland referendum to take place before the end of the decade. Here to talk about that and lots more, would you please welcome the President of Sinn Féin, Mary Lou McDonald. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Paddy.
It's lovely to have you here. We've lots to get through. Before we start talking about stuff in Ireland, Pope Francis' funeral tomorrow. I know that you have said that he was a vital voice for peace in the world. How significant is his loss, do you think?
Well, I think we can safely say that the world has lost a very, very good man, and is the poorer place for it. I mean, for me, he was very much a champion of the poor. Even the choice of the name Pope Francis, you know, he pinned his colours to the mast earlier on. He was for the underdog, the excluded. He rang Gaza City every evening. Imagine that, even when he was really, really sick and struggling himself. And that, I think, above all other gestures, told the world who he was. So tomorrow he will go to his rest, and I only hope that whoever his successor is follows in the same train.
In another world, you could have been going tomorrow to that funeral as Taoiseach.
Yes.
It didn't work out. You didn't become Taoiseach. Why do you think that was?
Well, simply put, we didn't get enough votes. I mean, that's how elections work, Paddy.
Yeah,
you know, you put forward your candidates, take it out there. You put forward your candidates, you set out your platform. I think lots of things. I mean, obviously, we've reflected on this since the election. It was disappointing. I'm disappointed still that we have now the same government, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. I still believe that we can have a different government. I'm still determined to work to make that happen. But we learned lessons from the last campaign. We have to learn them. We have to not repeat any mistakes that were made. And we just need to convince more people that they can have a better government and that we can lead them.
Would you have done anything differently, looking back?
Of course I would. I'd have won. I mean, that would be the main difference. I mean, look, in this work as an activist, as a political leader, every day is a school day, every campaign is different. And yes, lots of things. I mean, for example, one thing, we need to be able to assure people at the next election, when we talk about a new government and a new approach, that we actually have partners in that enterprise. And I think even in the earliest days of this new Dáil, you have seen a level of collegiality, cooperation between Sinn Féin and other parties of the opposition. And I know from being out and about, so many people have said, thank God, at last. That's a big learn for me. I think a big learn for all of us.
You've been president of Sinn Féin for 7 years, 2 elections. After this election, was there any pressure from within the party for maybe you to step aside, or was that conversation ever?
No, I mean, I'm in the job now 7 years. I mean, I'm in my prime. I believe in what we're doing. I believe that we can. I mean, we live in an amazing country. I'm so proud. I'm a Dub, as you know, so we're never shy about extolling the virtues of our city. So I'm a proud Dubliner, a proud Irish woman. There is so much work to be done, so many things that can be achieved, and I want to be part of leading that effort. So no, that never occurred. We had very frank, very honest conversations amongst ourselves, and you know, where I have things to learn, I will always be open to that. But no, I proudly lead Sinn Féin, and I have the full support of all my colleagues, which is great.
You have said that you're ruling yourself out of running for president.
Yes.
Were you remotely tempted? Did the chat ever happen?
Well, look, I mean, when you look at Michael D. Higgins, who is, I think we can all agree, an absolute national treasure. I mean, he's just been exemplary. And when you see the kind of things that he can achieve just in terms of the atmosphere of the country and how we understand ourselves and how we portray ourselves internationally, like, it's a very important job.
So would that not have tempted you?
But my work is to make sure that we get a change in government, so that we get a change in housing policy, in healthcare, so that we have better opportunities for our young people. And as important and significant as the role of president is, you can't achieve those things from Áras an Uachtaráin.
Okay, so you're not going to run. Is Sinn Féin running a candidate?
Well, we're going to talk about that. I mean, we've options. We could run a candidate. We could equally support a candidate from outside of Sinn Féin. So we're going to have a conversation.
What way are you leaning?
I can see the merits in both. I have my eye on one or two possible candidates. You're not one of them, Paddy, so don't be now. If this is like an interview or a rehearsal for that role.
To be honest with you, I mean, I was only here to get a Sinn Féin endorsement for president,
well,
to be honest, so it's a big disappointment.
Well, I'm sorry. But you're from County Down, up, down?
Yes.
That always cracked me up, that up, down thing. But anyway, I had to say that to you. But isn't it crazy that people who live in your county and in Armagh and Derry and Tyrone and Fermanagh and Antrim, can't forget them, that in the 6 counties that they can't vote for their president? I think one of the things, we're not going to have it done for this presidential election, but it's no longer acceptable that Irish citizens living in the north of Ireland who carry Irish passports, for whom Uachtaráin na hÉireann is their Uachtaráin, that they're denied a vote.
So
we made a promise that would be changed, and that really needs to be changed. It's not going to happen this time round, unfortunately, but it has to happen for the next presidential election.
So would that just be for people in the north with Irish passports, or if you're born on the island of Ireland and you're a unionist, would they be able to vote as well?
I think
could the DUP vote?
We need to maximise the franchise. For me, the role of the president, the essence of it is inclusivity. And we've agreed that, you know, when you live on the island of Ireland, you're Irish, British, both. So I would like to see an expanded franchise in terms of the ability to vote. But the important thing is we have to get over the first hurdle and the political system do what was promised, and that is actually hold the vote, talk to the electorate, get it over the line, and ensure that people living in Ireland can actually vote for their president.
Sinn Féin didn't go to Washington this year. When we had Michelle O'Neill on last year, yeah. She said the reason why Sinn Féin were going was because without dialogue, there's no peace. Mm-hmm. Has that policy changed?
No, that remains the essence. You only achieve things in life by dialogue, by talking to people. We know this.
So why do you not
all
go?
Of our history. So when the American administration declared openly and publicly that they had changed policy to the extent that they were going to evacuate Gazans from the Gaza Strip, annex all of that land and turn it into, I think, a kind of a Riviera resort, that for us was just a step too far, a bridge too far, and had to be challenged. By the way, still has to be challenged.
You were calling for the Taoiseach to challenge Donald Trump when he went. Would it not have been better to maybe have you there as well as backup and tell him that?
So here's the thing. Unfortunately, we talked about the general election. I'm not the Taoiseach. I'm not the Taoiseach. Had I been the Taoiseach, I would have done precisely that. But St. Patrick's Day in the White House and the series of events that are run, sure, the rest of us, you have access to the administration, but it is essentially a meeting between the President and the Taoiseach, and the Taoiseach speaks for all of Ireland and for all of us on that occasion. So uniquely, it is only the Taoiseach who can really bring that message directly. So for us this year, and bear in mind we have deep roots in the United States, profound and enduring relationships which will last. But for us this year, that pledge in terms of Gazans, a refugee population that have been bombarded, brutalised, that are facing genocide. We believed this was our way of marking our protest and making our view, and I think the view of the vast majority of Irish people, clear in our way.
I want to ask you about something that's been in the news recently. Sinn Féin are facing a ban this year from the Trans Pride March after your health spokesman, David Cullinane, tweeted that the UK Supreme Court ruling on the definition of a woman was a common sense judgment and that the Republic needed to consider it. He then deleted that tweet and he apologised. Now, like some Irish families, I know this is personal as well as a political issue for you. Where do you stand on this?
So just in terms of David, the great thing about social media is that it is immediate and fast and reflexive. And the problem with social media is also that it's immediate and fast and reflexive. And I don't think 140 character tweets on issues that are sensitive and complicated and so on serves well. And
but he is a health spokesman. He should know what he's putting out there, no?
Well, I mean, it was his tweet, and yeah. I think he subsequently has explained his position. Look, for me, and you rightly said, Paddy, this isn't an abstract issue. Simply, I have a trans sibling, and I love my sister. She's compassionate and clever and accomplished, and she's loved beyond measure and unconditionally. And I want her to live a full, authentic life. And I want that for every human being. And I want us to live in a society where that's possible. So the first thing in discussing any of the issues around this, we need to have the right atmosphere. And we need to reassure each other that we're starting from a position of respect. If we don't have that, we can't have the conversation to clarify, to reassure, and to straighten out the issues that need to be addressed. So for me, I look across to Britain, you look further afield, and you see a really toxic, divided, divisive approach to issues that can't be solved in a hostile environment. They need qualities of calm and respect, and I think that's who we are as Irish people.
They also need decisions, though, as well,
Absolutely.
Don't they? So, I mean, in terms of that decision, has that changed Sinn Féin policy on this?
Well, no. I mean, the decision has to be studied. It'll have an implication north of the border. What implication south of the border in terms of courts' rulings, we don't know at this stage. But certainly the first decision has to be that we work for equality, for inclusion. And by the way, the rights of everybody can be protected and maintained. We shouldn't have to select individuals, women, men, trans women, trans men. Everybody has to have their rights respected. And I believe that we can get to that point in a fair way, in a balanced way, that brings reassurance to people.
I want to talk to you about North and South. At the weekend, you said you believed a United Ireland referendum will happen before the end of the decade. We both know the only way that can happen under the Good Friday Agreement is if the Northern Ireland Secretary of State calls that referendum. Recent poll, Irish Times, Aaron's Project says 34% in the North favour it. How is that going to change in 5 years?
So this is something that I have consistently raised with the British government and recently with Hilary Benn, the Secretary of State that you instanced. Look, I believe that we're living in the end days of partition. Actually, this year marks a century since the Boundary Commission partitioned our island. So a century ago, people in Tyrone, in your own home county of County Down, woke up one morning and everything had changed for them and they had been left behind. And then the history unfolded, as we know. We're now at a point where we have real opportunities economically, socially, to build an Ireland that creates wealth, prosperity, happiness, security for our entire island population. And I think we need to grasp that. And I also know that we need to plan for it. One of the astonishing things is that in the absence of any substantive debate, that you have 34% of the population north of the border saying, yes, I favour this. I believe that as the conversation deepens and as we listen to each other carefully and as the opportunities become more apparent, I believe that support will grow. But the government here in Dublin has to lead that. They can't bury their heads in the sand.
I understand that. You know, you're talking about all of these things that, you know, how people's lives are going to change economically. When I was growing up in the north, you know, we had Maggie Thatcher telling us that we'd be better off under Britain, and it didn't change any nationalist...
Well, nobody was better off under Maggie Thatcher, Paddy. My God.
Exactly.
Jeepers.
Exactly. But my point is that the nationalist community there didn't buy the fact that if there was a bit more money in their pocket, that they'd happily be British. This is a hearts and minds thing. And if you are DUP and you don't think you're British and you know you're British, you have to persuade them. So,
of course we do. Of course we do. And isn't that's on the one hand the great challenge of this process, but that's actually what makes it interesting. That's what makes it exciting. And by the way, if you are British in a partitioned Ireland, you will be British in a united Ireland. That's who you are. That's your identity. We're not trying to challenge that. But I'm saying very directly that this island, this entire economy, is better off as a single unit. And there's evidence of that already. I mean, in the time of the Good Friday Agreement, the all-Ireland trade was somewhere in the region of about 2 billion. It's now, about 14 billion all those years on. The border is a liability for us. We have unfinished business, and I think we should have this as a national project, that we reconcile, we unite our island, and we build a place where our young people, all of them, whatever their background, have their right chance here at home, and that we're not seeing them on Skype or whatever down in Sydney or Melbourne or Perth.
But if you're sitting in Newtownards or Ballymena and you don't want to have the conversation, you know, is it not up to you now to set out what it's going to look like to start the conversation? Instead of saying, we need to have it, say, this is what we think it's like. We've been thinking about it for a long time. It's our aspiration. Here you go, guys. This is what it's going to look like. What do you think?
Yeah, I think there's a balance in that. Of course, on the one hand, there's an onus on us. So when we talk about, for instance, healthcare, access to healthcare, and how you partner up services north and south, and how that works for people if you're suffering from cancer, if you've got a sick child, in real practical ways, what an all-Ireland approach does and means. We have to set out our values, all of that stuff. But we
how British would Ireland have to be?
But we also have to be clear that I'm not going to hand down on tablets of stones, this is how it shall be.
No, but you could maybe hand over on a sheet of paper how it might look. Let's chat.
Yeah, absolutely. And to have the chat, you have to have a defined democratic space where that chat happens. And the only people who can actually open that door and set out that space is the government in Dublin. I remember when Brexit happened, and we were all worried, naturally. And at one point, Enda Kenny was Taoiseach at the time, and he was talking about bringing together a forum just for the South. And of course, we challenged that and said, but how on earth could you talk about Brexit, much less deal with that challenge, unless it was on an all-Ireland basis? In fairness, the forum finally was 32-county all-Ireland. Some people said unionism won't come. But unionism, Paddy, did come. They came as hauliers, they came as farmers, they came as business people. And when everyone was in the room, the conversations happened. That's how human beings do business with each other.
If you had that forum and the forum came back and said, we don't fancy this, would you accept it?
Well, I would accept that that's what the forum has said. I don't believe that that would be the case at all. I really, really don't. And this is through...
But it could do.
And this is through direct experience of talking to people beyond my own tribe, right? For whom unity would not be their first preference. When I meet, as I do from time to time, women from a unionist or a loyalist background, do you know what they want to talk about? They want to talk about healthcare. They want to talk about their children. They want to talk about their grandchildren. They want to talk about how tomorrow can be better than yesterday.
I agree. And when I talk to them too, they're the things that they want to talk about, but they want to talk about that while they're still in the UK.
They want, and some people who are absolutely committed to a unionist position, that will be their position. And you know what? That's okay. Yeah. But when you look at what the dynamic for politics is across the island, what you find is you have committed nationalists and Republicans, unionists and lawyers, and then there's a whole swathe of people in the middle who ultimately need to be engaged in this conversation. So it's a really exciting time. It's a time of opportunity, not loss. And I say grab it with both hands, because this is a great country.
We're almost the same age. We both lost parents in the last 12 months. I'm sort of in the early stage process and stuff. Where are you on that journey after losing your dad?
Yeah, still processing it, to be honest with you. So, and I'm sorry about your mum.
Oh no, thank you.
Yeah, that's really, really hard. I had a complicated relationship with my dad. So, and initially when he died, I couldn't figure out, did that make it harder or did it make it less hard? So I think what I've learned in the intervening period is it's always hard. You have one father, you have one mother, and when they go, it's the finality of it, right?
And everybody's carrying something in their life.
Yeah, well, that's it. So, but yeah, I kind of did my best always to have a relationship with him. I didn't always succeed. That's the truth. But I'm at peace with that now. But I think I'll probably spend the rest of my life fully processing that.
It never stops.
Yeah.
It never stops. You are the leader of the opposition. There's been a fair wee bit of opposition in the Dáil since it came back. It resumes next Tuesday. Where are we on the speaking rights? Do you think things are going to calm down a bit?
This is now my 4th Dáil term, and I thought I had seen it all until I discover I hadn't. So imagine this, that Michael Lowry, resurrected Lazarus-like, the key man in forming this government and the guy that they all believe they have to keep happy. So that was one thing that I did not predict. And then we moved to the crazy situation of suggesting you could be in government and opposition at the same time. So, of course, as the opposition, we couldn't tolerate that. And it wasn't really about who got how many minutes. It was about the fundamental principle that for the system to work and for people to be represented properly, there has to be a clear distinction between government and opposition. And I think so. It got a very heated response, and rightly so. Paddy,
do you think that heat has gone? Do you think it's time to move on?
Well, look, we've work to do. Children can't get school places. People are looking for medical treatment that they can't access. I'm dealing with a lot of women who are suffering with endometriosis. And other conditions. So there's work to be done, and we have to crack on with that. But let me say this, it will never be acceptable to blur the lines in the way that this government sought to blur them. Having gone to the electorate, they formed their government. I accept that. I accept the verdict of the electorate. But I also know that they told lies around the housing numbers. They did that brazenly. We only could verify that after the fact.
I know that's your opinion, and there's no one.
Oh no, and they will have it. Well, I'm stating facts actually, but that's what happened. I found that very hard to take, but they formed the government, and that's all right. But you can't run the government and also run the opposition. That's never going to be okay. And I would hope, after the next election, whenever that is, when we go to what I hope will be a new government, I hope that respect for those distinctions will be reinstated.
Look, I know that that's your opinion. The government, of course, will have another opinion.
You're very diplomatic.
I am very diplomatic.
Balance.
Do you want to? You can change your mind on that presidential nomination anytime you want. No, I didn't think you were. Look, thank you so much for your time, for coming in to see us tonight. One more time, Mary Lou McDonald.
Thank you.
Okay.